the insane Jewish intellectuals, so-called, who came from, not the ones who immigrated, by the way, from Soviet Union mostly, but the ones whose great-great-grandparents or whatever, they came 1880 to 1920 from Russia or Poland, and they have absolute hatred for the Tsar and for the Russian people, and it gets passed down in the family and reinforced at Sunday school or Saturday, whatever, and it gets reinforced by shows like The Fiddler on the Roof, you know. So it's this ethnic hatred of the Jewish nutjob against the Russian people. And as these people have taken over American media more and more, this is very significant strain. And they're the root, I think, of everything. And then recently, the extreme liberals, the wine moms, the Hillary Clinton wing, they were probably either indifferent to Russia before, or maybe some mild dislike, but nothing. And this has happened since Trump, because, as you know, they blame everything. The global gangsters who rule America and Europe, every time something happens they don't like, Brexit, Trump, Le Pen, anything, Salvini, they blame on Russia, you know this. So unfortunately, there are these wine moms, we call them wine aunts, whose entire identity is based on this cut-rate liberalism spread by these people. So they've all been very quickly indoctrinated in the last 2 or 3 years to be anti-Russian, but it's extreme for them. It's very extreme. It's hard for people outside to understand, because Trump traumatized these people. They did not think it was possible. And everything they hate about Trump, they project onto Russia, white nationalism. It's insane. So it's these three main, leftover from the Cold War, the descendants of Jewish immigrants from Russia in that time, who by the way, those people grew up at a time when, I'm sure you know, Marxism had become this kind of messianic religion in the shtetls of the Pale. And in the original Fiddler on the Roof, there was a communist song. People don't know this. It got edited out in the final version. But it reflected that the people who came from there had a very strong communist identity and very strong anti-Russian identity. And of course, their great-grandchildren who have abandoned their religion, they have nothing else to anchor their religion except these things: hostility to Russia, hostility to Christianity. It gets translated into hostility to white America as they see it. And
I think it's actually really insane how the ethnic grievances of those people whose great-grandparents were beaten up by Cossacks for poisoning wells, 100 years later make up the cultural mainstream of America.
No, it's completely insane, and it's not just them. They put their craziest people up. This, I don't know if you know this woman, Jennifer Rubin. She writes for Washington Post, I think, and they say she's a conservative. She looks like in any previous generation, you know, on the shtetl, her family would have put her in the attic like the crazy woman of the family. But now she's given a national voice in America, and she riles up these wine moms I mentioned, these lemmings, into this insane, vicious hatred. It is very dangerous. It could lead to war. Thank God, whatever problems Trump has, we should be thankful every day that he and not Hillary is president, because there would be, I think, war with Russia. If anyone like Hillary or Kamala Harris became, there would be war with Russia. Not because, again, as I began telling you, most American people want no such thing. They would never go to war with Russia over Ukraine or even over Estonia. Or I'm not saying that I'm not saying Putin wants to invade those places, but I think that if Putin even wanted to invade Poland, for example, most Americans would never want to go to war. Right now, at least, over that. It's not the Cold War anymore. But the people who run the country, like you say, who have captured the media, and the wine aunts, the insane people they play to, they're frothing at the mouth. They want blood.
Yeah, I always tell this to fellow Russians who become Well, at first, of course, people in Russia, most patriots, were happy that Trump was elected because he promised reconciliation with Russia and just friendly relations. But of course, after he got elected, he didn't have as much room for his policies as he wanted. He didn't lift sanctions. He even installed new sanctions. He delivered weapons to Ukraine. But I always say we still should be happy that Trump was elected, because if Hillary won, she would be literally bombing Moscow right now to force Russians into having gay pride parades.
Yes, they're completely insane. People don't understand how insane. I talked to you about the old guard of American security establishment who were anti-Russian. But they were sane, sober people. They would not have pushed Russia too far. The people who run these things now, who run the CIA now, are crazy soccer moms with no historical knowledge whatsoever. And people like Victoria Nuland, you know this person, Victoria Nuland?
Yeah, she was an instigator of Ukrainian.
Yes. I think people in the United States know that was a coup funded by the CIA and people like her. But people like her think of themselves that they're big Metternichs and what they have no political skill and no historical knowledge, and they live in a sense they're raised. I know exactly who she is, by the way, and how their mentality and how they're raised. Munich 1938 to them is the universe. They think it's always Munich 1938, which they see as a big disaster for the West. And the lesson they take from that is that you must never back down, always attack what they call dictators, always be on the attack, never quote unquote appease, never negotiate. And they don't realize that in Cold War, the struggle had been transferred in large part to the Third World. So it was in Africa, Latin America, other places. So there maybe you could get something by standing in this way, and Russia, the Soviet Union might back down. They don't realize that right now struggle is in Ukraine or Estonia, which is in view of Petersburg, Petrograd, and so forth. They don't realize Russia is willing to go to war over these things, and it should if it gets pushed. And they don't realize if they keep pushing, they'll get a war, which I don't think, by the way, that America will win. I don't think they'll bomb Moscow. I don't think America can win that war. You have to realize how crazy these people are. If it might be a proxy war, but if it's not, they don't realize Russia has 1/3 of population of America. That's not such bad odds,